Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today, we're going to be going over another unique item, and this is a strange one that may have some pretty interesting uses. It's a generic unique item, so it doesn't belong to any specific class, and it does have some crazy affixes. Let's go ahead and upgrade this thing to its maximum value. And we are talking about Soulbrand. So Soulbrand is one of the new unique items that you could potentially obtain via, well, you can get it in the world too, but I've gotten most of mine from Duriel, running Duriel runs. Now, Duriel is one that you have to actually farm materials for to farm. So if you want to get access to Duriel, I do have a video going over all that, everything you need to know about how to get access to Duriel, farm the materials for Duriel and whatnot, so that you can start farming. But let's go over the unique item itself, and let's talk about what it could be useful for. So first off, Soulbrand is a chest armor. It does have 12% lucky hit chance when you have a barrier, so a pretty huge lucky hit chance bonus if you have a barrier active. It does roll between 6.6 and 15%, which is a lot. It has barrier generation increase of 10.5 to 21%. Mine rolled 13.5. It also has a pretty decent amount of life on it, from 605 to 1,310, which is a nice little bump there. You can see mine rolled middling at around 957. And then it has a pretty decent amount of close damage reduction, which is a really good form of damage reduction, by the way, because most of the time when a monster's wailing on you with a melee attack, they are in close range. So it tends to be the one that is used the most. And that one rolls from 10.3 to 20.2% damage reduction, which is pretty nice. All in all, the stats on the item are actually pretty good for a body armor piece. You do have 2 defensive stats there, which is very nice. And barrier generation could be considered a defensive stat as well. So it's basically a 3 defensive stat piece of equipment with 1 additional non-defensive stat, which isn't too bad. And that's made up for by the special effect. So the special effect is your healing potion no longer heals, and instead grants a barrier for 200% of the healing for 4 seconds. So if I go ahead and throw this on and use a potion, which I do believe I have to be outside to use a potion.
I can't do that here.
What you'll see is that I'll immediately gain a barrier for 4 seconds, depending on the quality of my potion, essentially. So as my potion goes up, the barrier will go up as well. So as you can see, I now obtained a 1,118 barrier, which isn't too bad. And every single time I spam my potion, I gain another barrier. So all my potions will just simply give me barriers from this point forward. Now that effect by itself is actually kind of a odd one, and I think a lot of people will agree that they're not exactly sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. However, if you read the second part of the unique effect, it says while you have a barrier active, you gain a 20% damage reduction bonus, which does vary from 10 to 20. Which means that if you are a character that can keep barriers up constantly, and I'm looking at you, Druid, because the Druid is one of the few characters in the game that literally has a absolutely spammable barrier skill, and this would allow you to obtain a 20% damage reduction while that barrier is active, which is actually kind of insane for your class. Now, there are lots of different classes that can definitely obtain barriers. Temerity is also a pair of pants that can give you barriers every time you heal yourself. There's all sorts of different ways that you can obtain barriers. But the moral of the story is that with Soulbrand, I think you need to have a barrier active all the time to really get the best effect out of this. Because if the barrier is active all the time, then your health never goes down. And if your health never goes down, then you get to benefit from having the 20% damage reduction while also having a barrier active all the time and utilizing other effects such as the aspects that give you like damage multipliers while the barrier is active. And there's a lot of characters that have some interesting effects. It's like while barrier is active, gain lucky hit chance. While barrier is active, gain, such and such. And so you end up with a lot of really cool effects when it comes to barriers, and this is just another way that a barrier-esque kind of person can take advantage of those barriers even more than they already were. I mean, 20% damage reduction is kind of huge, and having that applied all the time because you have a barrier active just sounds insane. I don't think I would use it on this character. So let me clarify. My Barbarian I don't think is the best choice for this kind of effect. But it still is a rather interesting option for a lot of other characters. Now, I was also thinking potentially of another way, which is combining on this particular character, combining the Soulbrand with the Temerity Pants. And the reason why I was thinking it would work really good with the Temerity Pants is because the Temerity Pants heal you. And because the Temerity Pants heal you, because the Temerity Pants create a barrier when you are healed, you could potentially leverage other such abilities within the game, like, and let me head to my stash real quick, or the stash is all over the place now, and I still lean toward the one that was in here. Let me see if I can find Temerity, because I don't have a pair of Temerities. So it gives you a barrier when you heal yourself beyond 100%, right? Well, there's a vampiric power that gives you heals. So this one right here, which is Undying, which is whenever you cast a skill, it heals you for 3% of your life. Double this bonus when you are below 50%. And you could basically just spam this infinitely. One of the things that I found out about this skill, which I don't really know if this was intended or not, but if you just spam the skill, you actually heal yourself. Let me see if I can show you this. So you don't even actually have to have any monsters nearby. And let me just take a little bit of damage here because I need to show you how this works. So now I'm at half health, right? So I'm at half health. Let's go ahead and pull back so that I'm no longer in danger. I'm going to pull out of town real quick, and I'm just going to hold shift and click. Every time I attack, my health goes up, which means that you could potentially utilize Soulbrand with Temerity and this particular power, the vampiric power, which heals you over your life, because obviously every single time you're attacking, it's healing you over your maximum life, and Temerity gives you a barrier every single time you heal over your maximum life. So it could be a very interesting combination of effects there to make yourself just ridiculously tanky, to give yourself a barrier on top of 20% damage reduction, and just, yeah. Sounds absolutely insane, doesn't it? Me particularly, I really need this. Each point of fury generated while maximum grants the fortify. So if I can't put this somewhere else, there's no way I'm going to be able to put on Temerity and Soulbrand together, because it eats up too many of my legendary affix slots. In fact, I'm kind of running short on aspect slots. Well, usually I am anyway. This particular item, though, is really interesting, and it could be a fun one, I think, to build an entire character around, in my opinion. Just set up a character, perhaps, with, like, Temerity and this new vampiric power, Soulbrand, and maybe just on a character that can already generate their own barriers, or maybe a character that can heal themselves constantly. I could imagine that Soulbrand would work really good on a Necromancer that uses Blood Orbs, for instance, if you're using the Blood Orbs to heal yourself, and then maybe combine that with Temerity as well, so that the Blood Orbs will give you a barrier when you collect the Blood Orbs. So you're sustaining yourself in another way. And I think that's really the key to this particular item, is that you need to be able to sustain yourself in another way, because you definitely cannot do without any kind of healing. So as long as you have some kind of sustain, some kind of generation of, HP other than your healing potion, then you're probably going to be okay. Because this is going to give you a really nice barrier every time you tap your healing potion. It's going to give you 20% damage reduction when your barrier is active. And then if you have another way of healing yourself, you should be pretty solid with this particular piece of equipment. I think as far as a defensive piece of equipment goes, this is probably one of the better defensive pieces of equipment that I've seen. Anyway, as always, I forgot to read the text. So it has a flavor text, and the flavor text is, to create such an artifact would require an impossible mastery over alchemy, transmutation, and the subtle magics of the soul. By all rights, it should not exist, yet it does. Artisan Callus. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about the Soulbrand. Take it easy. And keep watching.